This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Live tonight from the virtual Kansas Speedway, the top level of oval sim racing returns for just a third time in series history, with a thriller on deck for us this evening. Cars are on track getting some last-minute practice for this, the 7th race of the season. But before we join them trackside for tonight's racing action, we relive all the fun from 2 weeks ago at the Talladega Super Speedway in this week's iRacing Race Remix.
The road to $100,000 returns to the high banks of the virtual Talladega Super Speedway, where we say good evening, sim racing fans. To say, let's go racing from Talladega. Green flag in the air for round 6. It's the 14. We're going to squeeze them 4 wide in the corner, trying to get through. So far, so good. As they head now down to the tri-oval, I think we're going to make it. Playing musical chairs up front, and no issues for the 17 of Michael Guest. I think it would have blown up. The 17, who was pushing one of your race leaders, Michael Guest, is going to lose the engine while running in 3rd place. You saw this, but a few times that very outside line and out of the line of contact. The 62 of Leahy, he'll get turned sideways. The 8's around as well. Caution flag as they wreck in turn 2. It's only going to end up being a few cars. Somehow, a majority of them get through it. Huge shoving for the race lead is going to be Logan Kress. Look at the 16 to the inside. He tries to cut low. He can't do it as an aggressive dive for P1 from Overland is going to end in 2nd place. Kress was able to block 4 wide now. Here we go at Dega as they're going all out at a turn 2.
A couple moments that exist for here as they turn into one and a falling in turn.
Brown foul with issues as the 21 machine is sideways. The caution flag will come out. He'll get hit late as more cars now no time in turns 3 and 4. Can lose it, find some extra. Here comes Ottinger in 2nd. He'll look to the outside. There comes the 47. It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett Low. 4 wide at the stripe, and it is Nick Ottinger, winner at Talladega.
It's decision time, NASCAR fans. Who gets you the points? Who gets you the wins? Who gets you the bragging rights? Who gets you the championship? Sign up and play today at NASCAR.com/fantasy.
The road to $100,000 stops at the Kansas Speedway, where we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to round number 7 of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. We are going racing from the Midwest this evening, and we're so happy to have you along for the ride with us. Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth, Hugo Louis down, pushing all those buttons in the production hauler. And Randy, we're getting ready to go racing. We just saw the race remix from Talladega, and if you thought that was wild, you ain't seen nothing yet. This is going to be fun.
This is going to be a fun one for sure. Going to be interesting to see how these guys deal with the progressive banking. We typically see the cars up against the wall around this place, but you know, this could be anything with the new package. Could see a wide array of things happen here tonight. It should be a great show here from Kansas.
1.5 miles. This is the third time the series has been here, and we're going to see some great racing action, as you mentioned, with that new rules package. Talladega was sharp. I think back to Fontana, the first time that we ran this rules package, Randy, and it was wild, and I think this one is going to be much of the same. We might see a new winner in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series when we throw the checkered flag here in 134 laps.
I know that you and I were talking that this might be one of those races that you might see a bit of a wild card winner, and I believe you put your vote in for Garrett Lowe, and that would be definitely a bit of a wild card to come out and win one. I'll go with the 4, Nathan Lyon. I think Nathan Lyon and everyone there over at the Letarte Racing team needs a little bit of luck going their way, so I'm putting money on the 4.
Well, we've got a whole host of drivers getting ready to try to grab that checkered flag, but we've got a special guest here this evening on our pre-race show getting ready to go racing. His racing resume includes a NASCAR Gander Outdoors Truck Series Championship and a NASCAR Xfinity Series Championship and a Daytona 500 win. Want to welcome Austin Dillon into the show from Team Dillon Esports. And Austin, you now have an official team in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. How did that come about, and why did you want to be a part of this series?
Well, you know, first of all, thanks for having me tonight. And I saw a lot of my friends and guys I see at the track each and every weekend getting involved. And Dale Jr. was actually the main guy that asked me, you know, hey, you should get involved with iRacing. So I was like, yeah. And he got me in contact with the right people. And now I've got 2 cars and having fun with this. This is a really cool way to, you know, show our sponsors off and get guys like Blake and Ben together out there on the track and running well, and Blake's doing a great job, and as well as Ben. So pumped to have Beneath and StockX on those cars, and hopefully they keep running well.
Can you see the rise in esports like iRacing helping to grow the sport and engaging interest with the younger fans in our sport?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I'm been playing a lot of video games this year. Gotten involved with the e-games company, been talking to them about doing more e-games type things, and as much time as I spend in the simulator during the week, iRacing was really key for me over the last couple years of just getting more track time, and I feel like they do such a good job of simulating what I do every Sunday that it's cool to be involved with them. And then also our simulator that we have here at the shop, I've been digging on it, and we actually had Ben come by the shop, and he got to sit in it and make some laps in it and feel the differences between the two, and I think he had fun doing that.
And that was going to lead into my next question. Have you met your drivers yet, Ben Nelson and Blake Reynolds, and have you given them any advice about racing?
Yeah, Ben actually came down, spent a day at the shop here at TDM and at RCR, and like I said, he got to get on the simulator. Blake hasn't got that opportunity yet because he lives all the way in Texas, but he came to the race with us, hung out at the race at Texas, and I only saw him for a split second right after I got out of the car. I didn't get to see him before driver intros, but he's having a great year, it looks like, this year, 7th in points. So and I saw how close he was at Talladega and Texas. They both had he's had a really good run going, so excited to see how he does here in Kansas, because I feel like these guys are gonna be drafting again tonight.
It looks like it's going to be a 3 and 4 wide race. We are excited to have you along for the ride here in this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Thanks for joining us here tonight, Austin. Enjoy the show. What do you think we're going to see here tonight?
Well, Kansas, it's one of my favorite tracks. It did such a good job when they paved this place, and they've created a little bit of that progressive banking right at the wall. So the outside lane is really dominant when we get to putting laps on our tires on the bottom. But with this package that we're racing this year, the bottom line will still be strong for a long period of time. But I feel like the guys that can hold the throttle down the longest and have a car that handles well in traffic will probably be the guy that wins, and that's going to be the same for us come Saturday night in Kansas.
We look forward to seeing you in the 3-car on Saturday night. Enjoy the race here tonight. And Randy, we're getting ready to go racing here. The drivers are getting ready to grid as we see the practice wind down, and you get to see the schedule on your screen. We're halfway through this regular season after this evening.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really, it's amazing how quickly this is gone. And it's like one of the craziest swings of races, really, I think, for the entire championship. You go from a short track at Richmond to Talladega a couple weeks back, Kansas tonight. You have the 200-lap Charlotte race, longest race of the championship. And then we head out back here out west to California for the Sonoma Road Course. I think it's the craziest swing of tracks we have over the entire schedule. But first things first, before we can get to Charlotte and Sonoma, we need to log 134 laps around this place.
You talked about crazy. We're getting ready to crank them up here and go racing for 134 laps around the Kansas Speedway. This is your starting grid for this evening's race. And on the pole, your defending winner of this race, Keegan Leahy in car number 62. He'll share the front row alongside Chris Shearburn. He had a top 5 finish here one season ago. Ray Alfala, Jarl T in row number 2. Corey Vincent, Bobby Zielinski, row number 3, Christian Chalner, Chris Overland, row number 4, and rounding out your top 10, Michael Conti with the filter time colors on that race car, and Jake Nichols, your top 10.
The 75 of Phil Diaz puts in an impressive qualifying, gets himself 11, starting out inside, of Casey Kerwin. Logan Clampett and Brandon Cattell will make up row number 7, Casey Tucker and Kane Cook on row number 8. Brad Davies and Nicholas Shelton on that 9th row, and Brian Schoenberg and Ryan Luza round out your top 20.
Zach Novak led a lot of laps here this year. He'll start 21st with Ashton Crowder to his outside. Cody Bias, Garrett Lowe, Ben Nelson, Nick Ottinger, Matt Busa, Dylan Duvall, Malik Ray, and Michael Gariglia through 30th.
Tail end of the field, Nathan Lyon and Michael Guest, Taylor Hurst and Jimmy Mullis, Blake Reynolds, Adam Benefiel, Eric J. Smith and Logan Kress, and then Ryan Lowe and Timmy Hill round out the 40-car field tonight.
This one is going to be wild. Glad you could be with us here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. Keegan Leahy looking to get a little bit closer to the front of the point standings and maybe solidify himself a little closer to a playoff position here this evening. Chris Shearburn on the outside. He's been running really well in that Letarte Esports number 36, and he's going to look for another top 5 here at the Kansas Speedway. The pace car is pulling in. We are getting ready to go green, and Keegan Leahy is already gone. Green flag is out. We're underway from Kansas, and looks like your top 3, Randy, going to get single file here. The first side-by-side battle going to be around 4th place. Corey Vincent trying to make it happen on the inside.
And everyone playing a little bit patient at the moment, getting themselves single file. Chris Overland is going to be the first car running there up top that we see single file, but out in front we're going to see Shearburn, the Letarte car. He wants to challenge that 62 Leahy early. He hops up top. Now you have the 21 of Ray Alfala trying to push that 62 down there around the bottom as we come to the end of lap number 1 here. Looks like he's going to be the 62 who leads that first lap as these guys start packing themselves up.
We saw it 2 weeks ago at Talladega Super Speedway where these guys had to draft. It's a matter of who you can work with, who you get to that outside line, and right now Shearburn is going to be that one to the outside here at Kansas. The 18 of Zielinski right in tow with Jarl T and the teammate to Keegan Leahy on the outside. They'll dance down into corner number 3. That outside line starting to form here, Randy. We expect some 3 and 4 wide racing. We saw it in the practice sessions and the races leading up into this week's eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series event. At the line, Keegan Leahy leads that one by just by a bit over Chris Shearburn, and they continue to duke it out down into 1 and 2.
Yeah, and everyone's staying relatively patient. We're expecting potentially some 3, maybe 4 wide, but we're not seeing that yet as the 36 of Shearburn going to get a run down the back straightaway, and he's not going to even try to take the nose off that 62 car. You're going to see Bobby Zielinski in the 18 think of getting his way up top, but not going to go for it. But everyone's staying relatively patient here on these opening couple laps. I think these guys know it's a long race. You don't want to get too crazy, but as I say that, the Interstate Batteries number 18 of Bobby Zielinski looks up top, making it 3 abreast at the head of the field.
But look at the run Shearburn got, trying to pinch that inside line just a little bit, and it looks like he is going to take the advantage down the back straightaway. Shearburn leads down into corner number 3, and now that inside line kind of fizzles a little bit. Keegan Leahy on the inside. Ray Alfala's backpedaled a little bit. Leahy finds a spot in the line in second. It looks like Ray Alfala slots in behind the filter time number 8 of Michael Conti. Shearburn will lead another lap, and now it's single file. Right about your top 5 as these drivers looks like they're going to log some laps here up in front.
Amazing how quickly things can change. And then we were just talking about 3 abreast up there at the head of the field, and now it's really the top 10 pretty much that have single filed their way out for a side-by-side fight in between the 19 and the 27 of Corey Vincent and Chris Overland. You also have the 37 of Christian Challoner back in there, the 99 of Logan Clampett. We're going to go yellow early tonight.
We've got a caution in the middle of the pack. You just saw it at the top of your screen, and those drivers will find their way back around, and it's the Team Dillon Esports number 33 of Ben Nelson. Tough break for him early, as looks like Jimmy Mullis in the Sim Seats 46 may have had a little piece of that one as well. It was about the middle of the pack. We were talking about these guys going 2 and 3 wide. Middle of the pack, Malik Ray is there. Looks like Nathan Lyon just barely skirted through there, and a couple of cars getting some damage to bring out the first yellow flag here of the evening, but everybody was calm up in front, Randy. It looked like they were content to ride, and some of these guys in the back got a little bit too close for comfort, as it looks like a tough break for that number, that 33 of Ben Nelson.
Yeah, we talked to his team owner of Austin Dillon, and really unfortunate to have Austin on the stream and have one of his cars go out early. I actually think that's been a bit of a trend that we've had. I think every real owner we've had in for an interview, their cars have gotten into some trouble early. So unfortunate there for the 33, but a little bit of split strategy maybe coming out as some drivers hit pit road, others opt to stay out.
Looks like about a dozen or so are going to stay out onto the racetrack. Shearburn leads them down. Jarl T, and as you saw on your screen on that onboard, it looked like he was coming in and through that late move back out onto the racetrack, but his teammate Keegan Leahy is onto pit road along with almost the rest of the field, except for about a dozen that you see on your screen. Leaders down and away from pit road, and it looks like Keegan Leahy will barely edge out that 36 of Shearburn as they head it back out onto the racetrack. And with this race, Randy, the new package, do we expect maybe a more aggressive fuel strategy here? Maybe these guys are thinking ahead and thinking big picture in this one?
Could definitely be, but I think it could also be tires as well. And we've seen a little bit of tire strategy with these sorts of races. And it's important to remember here at Kansas that you have the progressive banking here. So that the higher you go up the racetrack, the more aggressive that banking is going to get, and the more the track's really going to work with you. We saw the entire field pretty much get up against the wall right near the end of that run. So those drivers that came down pit road, they may have a little bit more flexibility in where they can run, but I still think what we're going to see today, Tim, I think you want to try to get up top if you're starting to think it has the long green run feel, because that should help you keep the tires underneath your race car and keep you good for the long run. So going to be pleased to see how the strategy plays. As we should be getting ready to go green, I believe, next time by, if not the time after. Nope, next time by.
And you see some of those drivers that have stayed out on the racetrack. You ride along with Dylan Duval in the 42, the Simcraft independent driver on the racetrack. So Jarl Tien stays out in the racetrack. He'll be side by side with Ray Alfala. Phil Diaz in the 75 will line up in third. To the outside, Christian Challoner in the 37 for JTG Doherty Racing. The 19 at Casey Tucker, new colors this week, lines up in position number 5. Brian Schoenberg, Dylan Duval, Eric J. Smith, your top 8. Then Keegan Leahy and Chris Shearburn are your top 10 as they round turn at number 2 and we get ready to go back to green. And one thing we should note, Randy, I know we were talking before we came on air, this race is 33 laps shorter than it typically is. We've run here twice before at the Kansas Speedway. Obviously last season won by Keegan Leahy, and the last time before that was 2013 when Nick Ottinger went to victory lane, scored a dominant win there, leading over 120 laps to take the victory. Nick Ottinger coming off that big win at the Talladega Super Speedway 2 weeks ago. So keep an eye on that 47. He likes Kansas. He likes to draft. He's got that underrated sort of plate and rules package. So we'll see what happens here and see if he can get that thing up to the front. Green flag flies one more time, and Jarl Tien is going to lead this field back to green. Looks like Ray Alfala and the 75 of Phil Diaz will line up 1, 2, 3, and then they get side by side behind.
Yeah, side by side right now between the 37 and the 19. That's Christian Challoner and Casey Tucker. Casey sporting some new colors this week. He's going to try to get a push and get up there towards that 75. Won't quite get able to do so from the 42 of Dylan Duval. But now you're going to see from the outside, Christian Challoner going to keep that side by side. He wants to run up to that third spot. Oh, they're piling up.
And there's Keegan Leahy sideways, and behind them, they're going to stack them up, and looks like we're going to bring out another caution flag. Little damage there to the 20 of Jake Nichols on the front, but you saw it from the onboard, Randy. Keegan had a handful, and it looked like he was pointing in front of him, and everybody else was behind him trying to get a little piece of the action. There it is there, Eric Smith, Michael Conti in that one. There's that little bit of a pop to Keegan Leahy, and the rest just pile in, and the caution flag will fly. So a couple of near misses in this one, but Eric Smith, our winner from back at Fontana at California, and it looks like he's going to be behind the 8 ball here early in this one.
It's been unfortunate for Eric. He pulled out that early season win at Fontana, but just hasn't had the luck. A couple other cars involved. The 80 of Cattell, the 99 of Clampett, both get some damage out of this one. Maybe a couple other drivers as well. I saw Overland go spinning down through the infield, but I think may have mostly avoided some damage. So up and down the field, bit of drama, and 2 early yellows here tonight, Tim. We haven't actually seen this season. These guys have done really well thus far, keeping things clean and green in the early goings. And, you know, I will have to say, those drivers that decided to go from the front of the field, come down pit road and take tires, especially that 62 car of Keegan Leahy. I mean, this is a potential championship sort of night for him to maybe turn the night around. Ryan Luza kind of been buried deep in the field, you know, didn't qualify well, currently sits 13th. He goes from the head of the field, takes tires, comes out in traffic, and gets caught out because of it. May have just thrown away a great opportunity to make up points on Ryan Luza.
Bobby Zielinski is on there, also got a little piece of the action. And I know we didn't cover it at the start of the night, but point standings-wise, when you look at it, Ryan Luza has a 48-point advantage on Keegan Leahy coming in. And you mentioned that gap in between those top 2. You can see them on your screen right there, and it's a ways back to Jimmy Mullis, Michael Conti, Bobby Zielinski, Zach Novak, Blake Reynolds, and Matt Busa. Your top 8, those would be your playoff contenders if we were to make the cutoff now. But as we mentioned, after this race, we will be halfway in our 14-race regular season. But you see some names there that are on the list that are having really good seasons. Obviously, Nick Ottinger going to victory lane 2 weeks ago. Garrett Lowe has had an impressive season in the Renegades car. Brad Davies having a revival season. He's got new colors with the Dale Jr. Foundation on that car this week. But you look at that list. There's some drivers that you would expect to maybe be a little higher or maybe expect to be there. And then you got a guy like Ray Alfala, who I know was on Twitter this week and pumping his social media about making the comeback, and currently tied for 15th in points. So he's got a little ways to go, but he's also got 7.5 or so races to get there if you count this one that's currently running now. So he's got a little bit of time to get back up there, and right now he's got track position currently in 2nd.
Yeah, I mean, he does have, like you said, still half the season to go as far as regular season races are concerned before we get to those that playoff part of the season. And if he can start putting in some good results, we saw him have a good race car at Talladega, just didn't have luck swing his way. Tonight he puts in a fantastic qualifying. He's running the best he's run all season. That Wood Brothers car got taken number 1 in the draft, of course, being the best driver to have ever run in this series. I don't think there's any question about that. But he's really had a downer season in what has been the biggest season this championship's ever had. So I know Ray wants to try to turn it around. Let's see what that 21 can do, and if he can do that for the second half of this regular championship.
And running the VRS colors on that Wood Brothers Ford. I know James Gutta does a lot of great work on those paint schemes, so hats off to James as he gets ready to see that car fly from position at number 2. Pace car is in 66 at Yarl T, and it'll lead this field back to green for our second restart of the evening from Kansas. Green flag flies, and it looks like your top 2 will try to at least get single file. They got a little bit of space there. Christian Challoner trying to find his way to 3rd on that inside. Phil Diaz still trying to hold that outside. He's got Dylan Duval along with him.
Dylan giving him a little bit of a push from that middle groove. You also see the 55 of Schoenberg down low. Also last week's winner of Ottinger, he's in the mix up here near the head of the field as well. As these guys cycle down the back straightaway and in towards 3 and 4. Ray, a big shove to the back of the 66 of Yarl T in that time through. And here comes maybe that upper line. 19 of Casey Tucker thinks about it. Can't get 3 wide, but they do behind, fanning out 3 and nearly 4 wide.
Ray Alfala tried to go to the outside but couldn't get there. The hole closed up quickly, and now Christian Chalner goes to the outside to try to take the lead away from Jarl Tien. And there goes Tucker to the outside. Caution flag will fly in behind them, though. Got one up in the wall. There's the 7 to low, and is that Luza possibly, or one of his teammates in Timmy Hill going around to bring out this caution?
Believe it's actually Luza in the 53, and indeed it was. So we just talked about the fact that Keegan Leahy not having some great luck thus far this season, and maybe, throwing away an opportunity. Just as we say that, the 53 gets demolished in a huge wreck. Definitely gets a bigger piece of that than we saw the 62 get of the previous one. But so that's going to have championship implications, as I believe the 62 was able to get through there cleanly. So disaster there maybe for your championship points leader. But Tim, we ain't seen this all season. That's 3 quick yellows in just 15 laps. These guys need to tone it down just a little bit. There's still a lot of racing left to go, and they're running like they're coming to the white flag.
Lots of racing left to accomplish as you ride on board with Keegan Leahy there. Kane Cook getting involved in that one. Casey Kerwin in the Clint Boyer Racing number 14 also getting a piece of that one. And it's almost like an attrition battle here early in this one, trying to keep off each other. And those cars that are up front are mighty clean. And how about that run by Christian Chalner on the outside, trying to take away that leadway from Jarl Tien? Ray Alfala tried to find that hole on that outside line, but we've seen on the couple of restarts that we've had so far this evening, Randy, that the inside line for a couple laps seems to be the place to be. Then it migrates to that outside line, and it seems like it's migrating a lot quicker with the rubber that's being laid down on this racing surface as you ride on board with Nick Ottinger having a decent run so far, up to position number 7. We mentioned the winner from 2 weeks ago, and a former winner here at Kansas, looking pretty good so far in the top 10.
What I also love about tonight, though, Tim, is the fact that we're seeing the diversity that we get in this championship. Because, of course, it being NASCAR, it's typically a bunch of American drivers, might get some Canadian sprinkled in there. But I'm loving our top 2 right now. Our 2 drivers that reside from the far side of the ocean, or reside in Europe. You have Christian Chalner who lives in the UK, and Jarl Tien currently leading the way here from Scandinavia. So it's great to see the diversity that's in this championship. Both of them have been quick the last couple of years. Christian was one of the championship 4 just a couple of seasons back, and Jarl has always had weeks where he's really quick and is always potentially a car that can win it. But it's good to see them both up near the front of the field here early tonight.
And you can add Canada in that list as well, with Dylan Duval, the independent, running in position.
What, on the other side of the Atlantic? I don't know if you put that in that list.
Well, international flair.
It's an interesting globe you're looking at.
Yes, okay, we'll put it that way. But yeah, the Dylan Duval in 6, Keegan Leahy obviously in the series as well. He's had a strong run in this series, and he's had to dodge a couple of these incidents that we've seen already here this evening. It's provided some great onboard racing action. Maybe not as much as what Keegan Leahy and some of those in the middle of the pack have wanted to dodge here early in this one, but still early as you see some of the cars coming off of pit road as we ride on board with Ray Alfala down into corner number 1 under caution. 17 laps being worked on the board of 134 here this evening. It's been a pretty exciting race here so far.
Yeah, it's definitely been action-filled, and I think we're likely going to get to a point, Tim, that we're probably just going to break loose and have a really long green flag run after these quick little 2-3 laps caution, quick 2-3 laps caution, because eventually these guys are going to realize, like, oh, we're wrecking early here tonight, and we're deep in this championship already, and if we're not careful, we could just throw away our entire chances of even making the top 8 as we get deeper and deeper into this series. So, yeah, these guys, I think, need to tone it down a little bit, and I think when they eventually do so, we should be green for quite a while.
This portion of tonight's broadcast is brought to you by PEAK Antifreeze, the official antifreeze of the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing series. And so far, a couple of cautions in this one, but I'm getting excited for this racing. We saw this racing action, the sort of product in Fontana. We've seen a little bit at Talladega, but once we get that green flag run in, this is going to be exciting, as Jarl Tien has gotten good at these restarts. He's led the last 2 back to green, and he's going to lead one more here as we get ready to double up these drivers and send them back to the green flag next time by Christian Chalner, Casey Tucker, Ray Alfala, and Phil Diaz. Your top 5, Dylan Duval, Nick Ottinger, Brian Schoenberg, Chris Shearburn, and Zach Novak, who led the most laps here last year in the top 10. And I know there's been some Twitter and social media have been ablaze here this week, Randy. I know Brian Schoenberg is pulling for a top 5 because he's been growing one of those beards, I guess you can call it, if he makes a top 5 this evening. He told his social media followers earlier this week that he's going to shave the beard. So we'll see if Brian Schoenberg can bring that double nickel up into the top 5, and I'm sure social media will be ablaze if that does happen.
Well, I don't know how I feel, because on the one hand, I would love to have another you and Brian Schoenberg interview, but at the same time, I want to see exactly how long that beard can get.
I'm not sure if he has a camera that we can actually get that on the broadcast, or maybe that will be something that we can see in 2 weeks' time from Charlotte if that does happen. But that's still a long ways away. We have 18 laps going to be completed this time by at the Kansas Speedway. Jarl Tien getting ready to put the hammer down one more time as they come up at a corner number 4, and he's already on the loud pedal. Green flag flies once again, and look at that inside line begin to move. Casey Tucker was on it. He's going to be side by side with Christian Chalner as they head down into corner number 1.
Yeah, it's a terrible start from your second place runner, Christian Challenger. He's going to lose that second spot, and he's going to have to fight for third with the 75 of Phil Diaz as he worked through 1 and 2. And down the back straightaway, look for a big run, though, from the outside. The 19 of Casey Tucker getting pushed just about to the head of the field. He's going to be wheel-to-wheel with your 66, the race leader of Jarl Tien. Can he make something of this off 4?
Looked like Tien got a little free down into corner number 3, but he's going to maintain that lead position. 2 and 3 wide. They fan out in behind. It's going to be Tien leading that lap, but he's going to be on the outside. Where did Phil Diaz come from? Diaz to the inside. He's to second. He's looking for the lead. He's dropping back a little bit on the inside. And now Ray Alfala through the middle. Jarl Tien back to the outside. He gets that head of steam. He rolls it on the top at a corner number 2, and he'll try to go back to the lead on Casey Tucker.
Look at the 6 car. He wants to get racy, trying to ditch that 21 of Ray Alfala. That's exactly what we're going to do. No love lost between Roush and Wood Brothers, it would appear here. 3 abreast across the stripe for your race leader. 700ths of a second between first and third. That trip through. It's going to be the 6 of Zach Novak getting his way towards the head of the field, down along the bottom through 1 and 2. That 6 car has some pace here early.
10th to first in 2 laps on that restart is the number 6 for Roush Fenway Racing, and Zach Novak gonna hop back up to the top of the leaderboard here this time by, and he pulls away from this 3-wide battle behind. Where did Garrett Lowe come from? To the inside goes the 28. He was in 11th the last time by, and now he scored in position number 4, but he's on the inside of this 3-wide battle. Ottinger gonna join him on the inside, and Casey Tucker is going backwards in the middle.
Remember that long run we had near the start? Of my long run, I mean about 4 laps. These guys cycling towards the front of the field are the people on tires. 3 abreast now. A little bit deeper, a couple cars back. The 47 of Ottinger down along the bottom, trying to make this work with the 28 of Garrett Lowe up above. They're just about going to get it sorted out. Garrett Lowe able to defend. Christian Challenger up top, keeping the slipstream with Jarl Tien. So the 2 European drivers pulling each other around the racetrack, trying to work together, and they're going to just about be able to hold that upper groove as Garrett Lowe will continue to fight with Jarl Tien.
They get that run at corner number 2, though. Randy, the 66, pulls right up to Zach Novak and tries to roll that top back to the lead. Garrett Lowe still on that inside line, trying to make it happen and try to go to position number 2, but that outside line will have that momentum off the corner. They'll be almost even for position number 2 at the stripe. Give it to Jarl Tien, but now the inside line will pull even a little bit. Garrett Lowe, and I say inside line, it's only really 1 car. He's got Zach Novak in front of him, but the outside line beginning to form a little bit as you see some 2 and 3 and maybe even 4 wide in the middle of the pack in 1 car. I believe that might have been Keegan Leahy. He got a little squirrely.
Keegan definitely doesn't want to see that happening, especially the gift that he's been given with the championship implications. Him having a bad race, and then Ryan Luza, who we talked about him getting messed up in that incident, he's already pretty much called it a night. Car was only doing about 140 miles an hour. He's pulled it onto pit road. So the 62 car, he just wants to have a nice, clean night here at racing, and he's more or less guaranteed to make up a whole bunch of points on the championship. As at the head of the field, things are starting to single file out. First side-by-side battle between 4-time and Nick Ottinger.
It's hard to try to manage that big picture when you're in the middle of a hornet's nest like this. As you see Ottinger on the inside, Ray Alfala on the outside, as they continue to dance for that position. Right on board with the Kroger number 47 down into corner number 1. The front 6 or so are single file. Nick Ottinger trying to change that and trying to get to the inside of Ray Alfala, trying to come off the corner and won't get that pass done at least this time. And there goes Chris Shearburn right by on the outside line, so Ottinger will lose 1, but up in front continues to be that number 6, Zach Novak leading the way. He led a lot of the race here last year, Randy, led the most laps, but didn't come home with the victory. He's trying to get that W here this evening.
It'll be a second of the season. It's really been a crazy championship start thus far for Zach Novak. We saw him win the season opener at Daytona, but he was very much a part of the battle for the win at the second round at Las Vegas, and just hasn't quite been able to, wasn't able to pull out the win there. And then he just hasn't really had the pace that he had early in the season with the 6 car. He's been struggling a little bit, sort of been constantly in the mid-pack. Now Zach finds himself up near the front leading again. And it's really a crazy top 5 the way this championship has gone thus far, Tim. I mean, the top 5 of Novak, Tian, Lowe, Challenger, and Duvall. I don't think we've seen this top 5 ever. Nonetheless, at any point in the season, a lot of new names up near the head of the field tonight.
We talked about some of the drivers that have struggled off the top of the show and weren't necessarily in that point graphic that we showed off the top, but you look at guys like Dylan Duvall. He's had a couple of great runs going, just hasn't been able to close the deal and get great finishes. Garrett Lowe the same way, although he does have a couple of good finishes here this season. He's shown speed all season long, but it's hard to close the deal in this series because when you come down to the end, everybody wants that checkered flag and wants those extra positions as you ride on board with Garrett Lowe looking up at the top 2 and zoning in on Jarl Tien for position number 2. It's just been a matter of some of those drivers that are near the bottom of the point standings have had some really good race runs, have had some great speed. These are the top oval sim racers on iRacing. They obviously know what they're doing, but it's just a matter of trying to close the deal when everybody has the same agenda and has the same goal in mind. But it's great to see some new names running up front here and maybe trying to get that big win and maybe trying to get that top 5 that they need to close in on that top 8 and try to make the playoffs.
And then, of course, the other talking point, Tim, you talk about how competitive this sort of championship is. This could be the evolution of the new build. New package here this season. These guys have slowly been figuring things out. Could definitely be playing a factor that some drivers really hit on something this week at Kansas that others just really haven't hit on. Of course, it's a big talking point. If you take a look at the Team Dillon Esports car of Blake Reynolds, currently fighting for 13th. He's fighting with the 19 at the moment of Casey Tucker. You also see, I think, the 75 of Phil Diaz, who's fallen down the running order just a little bit. But with that new build, of course, everyone's on the same equipment in terms of, the chassis are more or less the same in all these cars. The engines are the same. There's no real difference in machinery and equipment along those lines. But, of course, the setups, very much a big point of development for all these guys, worrying about, of course, alignments and those and cambers and all the suspension geometry adjustments they have and working with ride heights and everything. That's constantly in development and is really the big shifting point in this. And that's, we might be seeing the evolution of that. In the 79 car, Nicholas Shelton, he's up to P8. Currently, I believe, just got a move done on Nick Shearburn, so that'll put him into 7th, fighting with the 21 of Alfala.
And just like the real world counterparts as well, we talk about new rules and new changes in the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, and you're seeing that on the iRacing side as well with this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. And you still see those same names near the front of the field. As you go through, the cream is going to rise to the top, but you also see some new names that are excelling with the new rules package and what we call the new build here on iRacing. And you're seeing some of that here this evening. Nick Shelton had a top 5 finish here last year, was really strong. This was one of his best racetracks, and looking for another top 5 run and battling it out with the 21 car there of Ray Alfalo, the Clint Boyer Racing number 79. Solidly in the top 10 right now, having a great run. And there's a couple of names around him that have been around this esport world for a very long while. Ray Alfalo and Chris Shearburn, and one of the newer names hanging out with him in that battle for the top 10.
You also have Nick Ottinger, who's been in part of this championship for an extraordinarily long time as well. A couple cars ahead. You have another sort of newcomer in this series. Of course, not his first season. Been here for a few years. The 42 with Dylan Duvall is side by side up near the head of the field. I believe that's going to be Jarl Tien, going to be side by side with Garrett Lowe. So Tien's pick doing rather well as he works down for that second spot down the back straightaway in towards 3 and 4. But that outside line just looks too strong.
And what we're starting to see up in front, Randy, and this is the first time that we've really seen this rules package here at Kansas in this series at least, is Zach Novak is out to a 1.2 second lead on this battle for position number 2. It's going to grow this time as they were side by side. It's 1.5 seconds or so up to your leader, Zach Novak, as Garrett Lowe takes that second place position. And looks like there's about 8 car lengths or so back to Christian Chalner back in behind. And there we see another battle on your screen. There's Shelton to the inside. He's got a little bit of help from Ray Alfalo, Chris Shearburn, and Nick Ottinger on the outside. And now through the corner, Shelton trying to make it happen on the inside. digging through corners number 3 and 4 and trying to get up to Shearburn. I don't know if he's going to get there or not, but he's going to try. And now Ottinger moves to the outside.
And Ottinger will have the preferred line through 1 and 2. Everyone's moved up to the top, but there is about a car length space that if Sheldon wants to get dicey, he could slide into here off of 2. Can he make that stick? I don't think so. Ottinger able to really slam that door shut to keep that from happening behind Ray Alfala, dealing with the 30 of Blake Reynolds. So Blake going to go to the inside of the 21 Wood Brothers car, and he should be able to have enough room to get up in front of Ray Alfa 4, and he's not going to need to, as it's actually going to be now Michael Guest who fights with that 21 car.
There's another driver that's had a lot of speed here this season, just really hasn't had a whole lot of finishes to show for it, is Michael Guest in the number 17 car. Got the Sunny D colors on that Roush Fenway number 17 this week, but has had a lot of speed, just hasn't been able to really have the finishes to put him up close to that playoff contention as of yet in this season, as he makes the pass on Blake Reynolds. And there's a driver that's really had a good season so far. As we talked with Austin Dillon off the top of the show, 2 top 10 finishes leading in to this race at Kansas, and momentum is big in this sport. It doesn't matter if it's on the real world side or if it's here in the iRacing world, but Blake Reynolds definitely has Big Mo working for him right now, and battling within the top 10 and looking pretty good right now, even though he's got a little bit of a crinkle there on the back end.
Yeah, a little bit of damage, but that's all right. You need to be able to have pace when you have those sorts of issues. You see him going down to the bottom, fighting with these drivers in this pack that's sort of formed up towards the tail end of your top 10, really 5 or 6 cars strong, with these guys constantly shifting positions around. But you are right, we have seen some pace out of that 17 car. He was potentially in a position to win at Daytona, but a slight mistake really took him out of contention, as Blake Reynolds still down to the bottom. Can't make anything of it just yet, but he still works on Shearburn. These guys are probably going to start getting pit stops in the back of their heads, Tim. It's probably not going to be too long before we see people starting to send it down towards pit road.
Some of these drivers still moving towards the front of the field. The 17 of Michael Guest takes that little look to the inside just in front of this battle that you see on your screen. There's Guest and Nick Ottinger down to the inside, trying to prevent that run from the 17 of Michael Guest as they go at it side by side again down into corner number 1. Look at the run that he gets. Guest is going to try to be side by side with Dylan Duval off of corner number 2.
He's able to get out there in front of the 47, so now Michael Guest will be targeting the 42 of Dylan Duval. So the car looks absolutely quick right now. Both of the Roush cars looking really fast tonight. Of course, the 6 is Zach Novak out there at the head of the field, and now the 17 car up the inside of the 42 of Dylan Duval. He'll have the spot at the line. Can't quite get clear, though, and it'll be the 37 of Challoner next in line to potentially fall here for the 17. And look at the run on the bottom. The 17 just gets on entry. It's like he makes up 2 to 3 car lengths on everyone whenever he gets into the entry of the corner. That Sunny D car looks absolutely amazing tonight and is running even better.
Takes a little peek to the inside of the 37 of Challoner to try to pick up that position. Slide up at corner number 4, and we'll take that position away. Just behind them, the driver I think that's on the move, maybe Blake Reynolds. Reynolds picked up a spot the last lap by on Nick Shelton, and now sees a side-by-side battle in front of him between Ottinger and Duval. Duval to the outside, Ottinger to the inside, and look at the run that Blake Reynolds gets. What a run for this 30 car. Is he going to stick it 3 wide? He's going to go to the outside and follow Dylan Duval through.
Now the 47 of Ottinger, can he run the entry aggressively enough? Yes, he can. The 30 actually goes down to the bottom. I think he was expecting Ottinger to try to run that middle groove. And by the way, while we've been watching this, Michael Guest has already caught and passed the 66 of Jarl Tien for third. So a lot of movers and shakers up and down the field here early already, as the 30 machine going to get down back to the bottom once again. Blake Reynolds working that 42 of Dylan Duval. Can't quite get clear off of turn 2. I think off of 4 he should have it.
Tried to make that move work. He's going to try to dig deep here. He goes down to that inside line, trying to get that run off of turn number 4. He will do so and clear the Simcraft 42. And Blake Reynolds will move up 1 more spot and put himself into position at number 6. So picks up a couple of spots on that lap. Zach Novak continues to lead. The gap is 2.2 seconds back to Garrett Lowe. And as you mentioned, Randy, Michael Guest has moved it up to position at number 3. He's had speed all season long, looking to close the deal. And could this be the night that he scores his first win in this series?
It very well could be. Both of these drivers running second and third have had moments to potentially pull out a win. Garrett Lowe's had a couple of them between Richmond and, of course, at Fontana that just luck didn't go his way, and he ended up spinning down to the wrong side of the racetrack. Now, though, the Michael Guest car, he's closing in on Garrett Lowe 3 to 4 tenths per lap. This 17 car on absolute rails on a moment. He was 0.3 quicker than your race leader last time by as well. So Michael Guest started 32nd, and within 50 laps, he's chasing down second and third shortly before the first cycle of pit stops. I'd say that's a good start to the race in my book.
And it looks like as the run goes on, that 17 car keeps getting better. So we'll see if we can get a long run maybe to the finish and see if that helps Michael Guest, or maybe it plays into the cards of Zach Novak or Garrett Lowe in front of him. Jarl Tien in fourth just off this battle here, and it looks like he just got passed by the 30 of Blake Reynolds. So Reynolds moving up to position number 4. We talk about Michael Guest being fast, and now Blake Reynolds is showing his speed up in the top 5 where he's been comfortable the last couple of weeks, and now he tries to reel in Michael Guest, but he's got about 2 seconds or so between himself and the next one on the list for the 30 team.
I'm interested to see what the sort of clean track pace is going to be for this 30 car, because he's basically on the same cycle as the 17. So will he be able to match the 17 now that he's out in clean air? He's been fighting the last couple laps in traffic, so let's see. Is the 17 already all over the back of that number 28 of Garrett Lowe? They work through 3 and 4. That Renegade's car is going to want to defend, but I'm not sure how hard with the speed that 17 car has had. Move already going to come in here towards turn number 1. Michael Guest going to pick that spot up for second, I think, easily.
The good news is that there's 2 seconds back to the next driver on the list if Garrett Lowe wants to fall anywhere backwards, but of course he's going to get that run off of corner number 2 and make this a battle for position number 2. Michael Guest trying to dig on the inside line, going to try to get it here. Is he going to be able to slide up in front? Going to be close here off of corner number 4, but give Michael Guest position number 2, and now it's about a second and a half or so back to Blake Reynolds. Reynolds is continuing to claw a little bit closer and make it about 1.3 seconds. Blake Reynolds can see this battle in front of him, and Michael Guest trying to pull away, and Blake Reynolds trying to close in.
Blake Reynolds with a few tenths quicker that last trip around the racetrack, but of course the 17 and the 28 fighting side by side would have hemorrhaged a little bit of time. Let's see what they can do this time, as the pace of the 30 is going to be really important to how these top 3 and top 4 really try to dig. Garrett Lowe this trip around the racetrack, he's going to go to a 30.897. Blake Reynolds this time a 6.60, so just about 2.5 to 3/10 of a second for Garrett Lowe that trip around the racetrack. Michael Guest to the 6.72 to a 6.12 for Zach Novak. So the 6 car maybe seeing this fighting behind him and seeing the gap quickly shrink down to him, maybe starting to respond to the pace of second on back behind.
Chalner and Alfala are going to open the pit window. They're going to come down to pit road this time and relinquish their top 10 positions. It looks like guys like Logan Clampett, Ashton Crowder, Casey Tucker among those down on pit road, Michael Conti, Matt Busa, and Kane Cook the last time by onto pit road. So the pit window has opened here, Randy, on lap number 51, as we have a 134 lap race. And I know you're already over there trying to punch the numbers in and making sure everything works out, but it looks like the 6 Zach Novak is going to come on to pit road, so your leader is going to head it on down to pit road at the completion of 52.
And a bit of split strategy from your leaders, Michael Guest. Actually, most of your drivers at the head of the field opting not to come down pit road with your race leader of Zach Novak, 47 of Ottinger. He comes down pit road, though. He's really going to be the second of that lead pack. So now the 17 of Michael Guest, he'll lead some laps here. Garrett Lowe will cycle into second. The 30 of Blake Reynolds into third. I don't think we'll see anything too crazy along strategy here, Tim. I don't think there's any way you can get deep enough to make this only on one more stop. So we should see everyone on pit road soon. Garrett Lowe will actually go another lap, and this is surprising to me, Tim, because this is going to be him giving up 2 laps to those drivers that just came down and got fresh tires on pit road. So I'd say at this point, the 28 of Garrett Lowe, if he comes down this lap, I don't understand why he wouldn't have just come down the previous trip past pit road. He's just going to lose more and more time doing that. All I can think is that Garrett's going to try to run this tank as absolutely dry as he can and go much, much later on the run than anyone else.
We saw his long run speed, at least compared to Blake Reynolds and Michael Guest, who were coming up on him, might have been a little subpar compared to those 2 cars, so maybe they're trying something different on the strategy. But on the other side, he's running up there in the top 5. I would think you'd want to be on the same strategy or so to keep yourself in the same ballpark as the drivers you were running around. But I guess that's why we're up here, Randy, and not down in the boxes like these crew chiefs are for these drivers. But Garrett Lowe stays out in the racetrack that last time by. Dylan Duval scored in position number 2, and looks like we might have a pass for second. Adam Benefield to the inside. Great to see the Carolina Simworks number 83 trying to make up a charge. He goes to the inside, and he'll come to pit road.
Yep, so a little bit of a debate there for Tim, thinking he was going to have a battle, but ended up getting taken away. So Dylan Duval cycled into second. Phil Diaz will cycle back to third. He fights with the 3. Michael Garigula through 1 and 2. So that 75 car up on the preferred line should just about be able to hold it, maybe not. 3 car definitely has pace down there through 1 and 2. As Garrett Lowe has stayed out on the racetrack, I think sort of as expected here with the strategy. Definitely doesn't seem like he's just going to be coming down pit road early, so probably going to push this as late as he can. Probably be around lap 60 or 65, I think, when we see the 28 on the pit road.
Hey, you look down the list right now, the last time by the stripe, you had Garrett Lowe, Dylan Duval, Phil Diaz, Gariglia, and Casey Kerwin as your top 5. Brad Davies, Ryan Lowe, and it continues to change as a couple more drivers make their way down onto pit road. Looks like we have about a dozen or so on the lead lap as the scoring continues to loop up, but that battle on your screen continues to be the one to watch as the 75 Phil Diaz, Michael Gariglia continue to go at it for position number 3. Garrett Lowe, as you just saw, out by about 4 seconds as Gariglia going to pull it onto pit road.
So here comes Michael down for his first scheduled pit stop of the night, as it's going to be Lowe, Diaz, and Davies, your top 3 as they cycle through. Ryan Lowe cycles out into 4th as we're actually some of our race leaders that came down pit road early. I'm curious of the pace. If we look at the 21 of Alfala, who was one of the first drivers to come down on pit road, doing 29.7. You compare that to what Garrett Lowe's been doing as he actually hits pit road this time through. It's 30.8, so that's the sort of time that the 28 of Garrett Lowe has been losing this entire cycle as long as he stayed out. So it's going to be a bit of an interesting call here from the 28, but we've seen traditionally, Tim, we've seen the long run work out for drivers. But we're going to have to see if that's the way it cycles out with the way that we got really 25 laps of early cautions here. Maybe that it favors a slightly shorter run here tonight.
It might very well do that. As you see the 7 on your screen, Ryan Lowe supporting the green colors for UNC Charlotte this week as he comes out of corner number 4. Looks like he's going to stay out on the racetrack this time by. Ben Nelson, we talked about him earlier, having that little bit of damage from an earlier wreck with the Team Dillon Esports car, and right now currently being scored in position number 2. Brandon Cattell in a 3rd, and Brandon Cattell is in a flock right now as they go down into corner number 1. He's got a couple of drivers on new tires making their way past, and the main and tail number 80 I think has seen a couple of better days here, Randy, as he's got a little bit of damage on the front and on the back. There's the 77 of Ashton Crowder on your screen. There's a nice little look there of the front and back on the number 80.
Yeah, it's definitely not the cleanest race car out there at the moment, but you're seeing some of the pace difference from some of the drivers that are pit versus those who haven't come down pit roads. That 80 at Cattell definitely not looking pretty, but doing everything he can to keep himself out there for as long as he can. That Interstate Batteries car, Bobby Zielinski, he once again stuck having to have another recovery drive, Tim, after getting involved in an incident early here tonight.
Coming into this race 5th in the point standings, but we've seen Bobby Zielinski charge back through the field after having some subpar starts to these races. So he's got some damage on that race car, but you better believe if anybody's going to drive that thing towards the front and put up an effort, it's going to be Bobby Zielinski. There's the 99 on your screen, the Burton Kligerman Esports entry for Logan Clampett, as he works his way by the 33 of Ben Nelson. Ryan Lowe continues to lead this race, still out on the racetrack, and trying to see if he can stretch it as far as he can on this run as we get ever so closer to the halfway point in this one.
Yeah, and it's amazing just how quickly these races can flip, isn't it? We went from basically a restart, running a couple laps and getting a caution, getting a restart, getting a caution, and now we've basically gone 50 laps all under green, and things have really single filed out. As we see the 6 and the 7 of Michael Guest and Blake Reynolds. They're going to work just about nose to tail in towards 3 and 4. We saw these guys really working through the field. Now we get to see them fight for position as they come off that final corner.
Reynolds trying to take that position away from the 17 of Michael Guest as they come down across the start-finish line to complete another lap. Your leader is still Ryan Lowe, staying out on the racetrack, and at this point only 5 drivers scored on the lead lap in this one. This is the battle for position number 6, Randy, but it's the first position that is currently 1 lap down to the leader, Ryan Lowe, as Lowe continues to stay out on the racetrack and stretch it as far as he can in car number 7. And he's coming off corner number 4 now. You can see these drivers on your screen battling just out of turn number 4 now. So just in the sights of the leader, just the first couple of cars that are 1 lap down. There's Ottinger in behind as he tries to get up here and make this a 3-way dance for this position.
And of course, the other cars these two are fighting with will be the 6 of Zach Novak, who's just out in front. of your current leader, of Ryan Lowe, and they are technically, well, they're technically not on the same lap, but they're basically on the same stretch of racetrack, are the 17 and the 30 in comparison to that 6 car of Zach Novak. You, of course, have Ottinger and Jarl Tien not very far behind as well. So that lead group are going to get reformed up, I think, here sooner rather than later. And it'd be a disaster to catch a caution now, Tim, because all these cars that are locked down a lap, we only have 4 cars on the lead lap. Michael Guest would take the wave around, but everyone else, Blake Reynolds from 6th place on back, would get locked down a lap here, if not have to take the wave around. And that'd be pretty much a disaster.
And make it 2 cars that have stayed out on the racetrack trying this strategy now as Ben Nelson has peeled down onto pit road. That last lap by 66 will be completed on the racetrack for Ryan Lowe, and looks like Brandon Cattell still gonna get that mane and tail car on the racetrack on the out of corner number 4, gonna come by this time and still be scored in position number 2. So 2 cars still left on the racetrack, and at this point, the next time by will cross the halfway point in this one. We'll wait a couple laps for the iRacing Midway race break to see if these drivers do decide to head down onto pit road. But Ryan Lowe and Brandon Cattell still out in front of the field, and looks like they have no signs of slowing down. But there's Ryan Lowe, and there's a hungry pack of cars trying to get back on the lead lap behind him.
Yeah, he's doing everything he can right now, is Ryan Lowe. It's going to be interesting if he can make this strategy work, because of course, this race being a little bit shorter than we often see for these big for these 1.5 mile racetracks, only 134 laps. Ryan Lowe's gone 67 laps pretty much on this run, I believe. May have came down during one of the cautions, but he may be trying to play a big chunk of strategy here and be able to go here to the end of the race, potentially on just one more pit stop. I think it's going to be difficult, but it'll be interesting to see if the 7 car can do it, because he still doesn't seem like he wants to come down pit road. He's fought to get down to the bottom just a little bit, as Ryan Lowe, so maybe coming down here this next time through. But every lap he goes, Tim, is a lap in the bank that he doesn't have to make in the second half of this race.
Indeed, it is not giving up, but he's definitely off the pace here and now down to the inside, so we anticipate him to come down flirting with that apron, and he will bring that number 7 down onto pit road this time by. So that only leaves Brandon Cattell on the racetrack as a driver not coming down pit road as of yet, and I believe he may be pulling the trigger here now as he slows at a corner number 4, and he'll head it down onto pit road. So once this all cycles through, this will hand the lead back to Zach Novak, and Novak should have about a 3-second lead or so on Michael Guest.
Yeah, he has quite an advantage here compared to Michael Guest and Garrett Lowe. Actually, about 0.3 quicker that last trip around the racetrack. But I think a little bit of fighting here between the likes of Guest and Lowe and Blake Reynolds has slowed down the pace just a little bit. And they sort of let that 6-car Zach Novak sprint out there to a bit of a lead out at the head of the field, as they will officially cycle into those positions this trip around the racetrack. But still, the fight for second, this is really going to be where it picks up, as Garrett Lowe and Michael Guest, they seem to be throwing haymakers at one another.
They've been going back and forth at it, and it looked like the 62 of Leahy and the 83 of Benefield may have had a little bit of a moment middle of the pack, but they've saved it. We stay green, and a perfect opportunity to take a look at where everybody is running with our iRacing Midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game with professionally sanctioned series by NASCAR and more. We'll take a look now at who is running where halfway through this race at the Kansas Speedway. And up in front, it's Zach Novak leading the field. Michael Guest in second. Great run for the 17 car. And Roush Fenway.
Yeah, look at those top 5. That's a lot of positions gained.
Indeed it is. Over 20 positions for each of them. Ryan Lowe, Blake Reynolds, Nick Ottinger, your top 5. Just goes to show that this rules package, you can definitely make some moves in this one. Jarl Tien, Ray Alfala, Chris Shearburn, Nick Shelton, and a Christian Chalner. He's been up and down all night long. Randy currently scored in position number 10.
Yeah, it's a good run tonight here for the 37. Jake Nichols in the 20, having another good showing in the 11th spot. Brian Schoenberg cycle back a little bit. He's in 12th. Ashton Crowder runs 13th. Dylan Duval 14th. Logan Clampett in 15th with Phil Diaz, Bobby Zielinski, Malik Ray, Casey Kerwin, and Cody Bias currently rounding out your top 20.
Adam Benefield having a up and down run, but he's up 15 already in position number 21. Brad Davies with those Dale Jr. Foundation colors in 22nd. Michael Griglia in 23rd, and Chris Overland in 24th here so far this evening. And the 25th position currently belongs to Casey Tucker. Michael Conti's been down a little bit in the filter time, number 8. He currently runs 26. Logan Kress in 28th the last time by. Keegan Leahy Matt Busa in there as well with the top 30 as they continue to change positions here, Randy.
Yeah, they're making it hard on Tim, but I get a bunch of lap down cars here for the final 10. Ryan Lowe in 31st with Timmy Hill in 32nd, and Ben Nelson rounds out your lead lap cars in 33rd. And then it's Brandon Hayes-Cattell, Jimmy Mullis, Nathan Lyon, Taylor Hurst, Ryan Luza, Corey Vincent, and Eric Smith not having the sort of nights they would like. Ryan Luza's back out on the racetrack, by the way. So that 53 car is going to get as many points as he can get, but it's not going to be a lot.
I think he saw where Keegan Leahy was maybe having a bad night or so, and maybe trying to get out here and gain some points, but that thing definitely does not look pretty. That's been a look at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today and use the promo code PR-eNASCAR 2019. You can see that on your screen to get your first 3 months as a new member for only $10. And the battle for second place, as you see now on your screen, is heating up. It's been back and forth since our Midway race break. It's Michael Guest currently that has the position, but Garrett Lowe has occupied position number 2 the last couple laps as well. And oh, look who's going to join the party. Hello, Blake Reynolds. Reynolds in position number 4 and is joining this battle for the runner-up position.
It's been the 3 most impressive cars, I think, all night. The 30 is going to make something of this for 3rd. Goes to the inside of the 28 of Garrett Lowe through 3 and 4. Can't quite make something of it coming up off the corner, so Blake Reynolds will cycle back in the line. But these have really been the 3 cars to watch. Zach Novak, after picking the lead up, has pretty much been out there smooth sailing, just gaining time on this entire group. But these guys, it feels like they've not had a clean lap in, pretty much the last 77 laps, and they've just had to fight the way up here to 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and now they're having to fight with one another to decide who's going to be the best of at least the 3 of them.
We saw Guest and Reynolds charging on that last green flag run before the pit stop cycle happened, but now that they have that position, they didn't have to fight, as you mentioned, all the way up here. Now we'll see if they can close in or make any inroads on Zach Novak. Novak right now has over a 3-second lead on this battle for position number 2, and you look back through the 30 of Reynolds is there, and Nick Ottinger's not too far behind. If they get racy, they're going to add that 47 of Nick Ottinger to the battle as well, as Garrett Lowe gets a great run down the back straight, right to the back bumper of the Sunny D Ford, and can't do anything with the run that he has in the Renegades Ford, but he'll try it to the inside at a corner number 4. The 17 of Michael Guest maintain that position, but Garrett Lowe will have the nose down there into 1.
Look, he's all over the rear bumper panel of the 7.
Into the inside.
It's going to be Blake Reynolds. So this is 3 cars still fighting for this. The 28, can he slide up in front of the 17? No, they're going to be wheel to wheel. The 30 car of Blake Reynolds is actually going to pick this spot up right back on Garrett Lowe. So he's going to say, if you can't make that pass, I'm going to be there and take that position right from you. Riding right up against the wall is Blake. Will he get the run off the corner? I think that answer is going to be yes. So Blake Reynolds, with Garrett Lowe trying to get aggressive, he's going to be the beneficiary there. He's just going to steal that spot, as now he's going to go working on that Sunny D Ford.
And now he's going to try to do the same thing to that 17 car of Michael Guest. He's going to try to get that line away, try to get that run, and take position number 2. But as we say that, there goes the 28 of Garrett Lowe back to the inside of Blake Reynolds. Looked like Michael Guest had a really good run that time at a corner number 2 and put a couple of car lengths between him and that battle behind him for position number 3, as you see the number 30 of Reynolds working that wheel on the outside. The 28 of Garrett Lowe trying to take it away, and Nick Ottinger in from behind these guys is licking his chops. He wants to get up here and try to make this a battle himself. Not too far behind is that 47 car, trying to make this a 3-way battle for what would be position number 3, and Michael Guest trying to run away from it.
He's been making up a little bit of time on these guys that have been fighting really hard. Not, roughly equal with that 17 car, though. So it might be the 3rd and 4th place cars, Lowe and Reynolds, really costing themselves some time here, getting aggressive and fighting like this, and inviting this 47 car along for the ride, who should be getting the slipstream now. He should be close enough to potentially get pulled along and potentially right up to that group. By the way, Michael Guest has made a little bit of ground, I believe, on Zach Novak. Last time by, Novak was actually quicker, but that gap seems to have come down just a little bit as we're going to be thinking about being about midway through this run, and we're already closing in on 50 to go.
And closing in on what would be that second round of pit stops, this portion of the broadcast is brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, certified pure #1 diesel exhaust fluid, and about 20 laps, I would think, Randy, or so before they come down into pit road. At least those guys that are on the 2-stop strategy. We saw the pit window open around lap 50, so maybe around lap 100 or so. Do we see any short pitting here with a 134-lap race? I love the strategy. I love the way this race is starting to play out.
I definitely think we're going to see the short pit come into the effect as we see the 28 of Garrett Lowe pick that spot up on Blake Reynolds on the cameras, and right back down to the bottom goes Blake Reynolds, going to try to take it right back before they get to the stripe, and he's actually going to be able to, so it won't even be we won't technically swap the positions on the official timing, but I think we're going to see the short pits come into effect. How early do you pit? I think 40 laps is about the earliest you're going to want to come down pit road, 40 to go if you're a part of this lead group. If you want to make something of it, maybe you're a Jarl Teen or a Ray Falla, maybe you really want to throw a bit of a Hail Mary. I think in the next 5 laps you come down pit road and try to really work something of this. But the reason the 6 car, Zach Novak, I think has this advantage, he was the first car of your leaders to really come down and get 4 fresh tires. Of the likes of Michael Guest, Blake Reynolds, Garrett Lowe. Remember, all those cars stayed out for an extra handful of laps, and it's really not worked out for them in that respect. It's really the 6 of Novak who's really put the work in, and just knowing the short stint would be quickest.
And looking back through the field, Ryan Lowe, being one of those drivers that was out the longest, is currently running in position number 25. He just made the move on Michael Conti to pick up that 25th place position. So he's still on the lead lap. He's still in the top 25, or now is back in the top 25. But he's got a little ways to work if he wants to get back up to the front. But he's running on that longer run strategy by the looks of it compared to the rest of the drivers in the field. Up in front continues to be Zach Novak. He just put a lap on Brandon Cattell. There's another one of those drivers that waited a while to come down into pit road, but did have a little bit of damage to that main and tail car, and you can see the gap on your screen. Michael Guest, a little ways back right now, got a little ways to work to get up to Zach Novak, and he's been trying to pull away from this battle for position at number 3, and it looks like he's done so by about 3 car lengths or so, and even now Blake Reynolds trying to pull away from Garrett Lowe, and Nick Ottinger has reeled in Renegades number 28.
Yeah, for last week's winner, the 47, he looks good tonight, and he sort of sat there quietly, Tim. We saw him a couple times in the early goings, and we had some 3 and nearly 4 wide craziness with the slipstream while the tires were still fresh for everyone. He was up there near those lead groups, but once things kind of settled out into single file running, haven't really talked too much about the 47. Now he's cycled himself back up in there, and he's really put himself in a great situation here to make something of this and fight with Lowe, Reynolds, and Guest. And that car, I think he's been a little bit calmer on the tires than the cars out ahead of him. So he should have a slightly cleaner race car, might even be able to put some pressure on the likes of Lowe and Reynolds and maybe pick up a couple spots.
Nick Ottinger likes these long runs as well. He's been involved in this series for so long. He's won a lot of races. He knows how these races play out, and I think Nick Ottinger, when it comes down to crunch time, is going to be there in that Kroger number 47, and he's showing it again, battling up for what could be position number 3 as Michael Guest continues to pull away ever so slightly from this battle for position number 3 between Reynolds, Lowe, and Ottinger. And the next driver back is about 2 seconds back, is Jarl Tien in the 66 car, and he's running all by himself right now, essentially. He's got about 2 seconds back to the next driver on the lead lap, and it's a nice little battle back there between Ray Alfalla, Nick Shelton, and Chris Shearburn. 3 cars right now in a train, trying to get maybe a little bit closer to Jarl Tien and the rest of the field up in front.
And this trio actually seems to be working together a little bit more, Tim. I haven't seen on the timing this sort of group really change positions a lot, the way that we've been seeing Reynolds and Garrett Lowe really swap positions in their fight. So I think this group really trying to work together and actively reel in those drivers out ahead of them. And I will say I like the situation the 66 of Jarl Tien is in when it comes to all of this. I think, being out there on his own little island, he should be able, I think, to really think about the strategy here cleanly. Is actually Lowe's going to come down in early, so here comes the short pit. Apparently 44-45 to go is the number.
We saw a few in as well behind them, including Bobby Zielinski and Michael Conti, and just been looking around at these 2 and 3 car packs. It looks like these drivers content to be where they are right now and trying to get to what would be that final pit stop of the evening, as Zach Novak continues to lead this field up in front. Has a couple of lap cars there, and Brandon Cattell and Ben Nelson right behind him as the 6 completes lap number 91 on the racetrack, commences lap number 92, and still has that 2.3 second lead on the battle for position number 2.
And the thing is, now that 28 car coming down pit road, Tim, he's really kind of set the strategy for all these guys. If they're the number you were expecting to come down pit road, you're probably going to have to change it here. And look at the 6 of Zach Novak. He's immediately going to respond after seeing the pit stop, and he's going to hit pit road. The 17 of Michael Guest stays out. 30 of Blake Reynolds stays out, 47 of Nick Ottinger stays out. So split strategy from the first couple drivers in your top 5. Now Michael Guest, Blake Reynolds, and Nick Ottinger, they're going to run a little bit longer. But with this having such a short run to the end, Tim, only basically 40 laps to go from here, they're not going to want to wait too long unless they want to, throw the dice and potentially expect to see a yellow flag before the end of this race. Because if you get a caution, these drivers that just pit are going to be pretty much locked the lap down. And then short pitting feels like a horrible idea, but I still like the idea of the short pit. This has the feel of a race that's going to go green to the end. I would call my driver down on towards pit road.
You better know that these crews have crunched the numbers. They know what they're doing as a few more come in. Chalner among them, Malik Ray coming on to pit road. We just saw Chris Shearburn down pit road a few laps ago as well. He was in the top 10 before his pit stop happened. So once you have that strategy, you have to commit to it. And it looks like these drivers up in front are committing to this strategy within about 5 to 10 laps of each other. You see Michael Guest stick handling that race car down onto pit road. He'll bring it down to pit road speed and commence his run onto pit road. What would be the final pit stop for him on the evening? If this thing goes green the rest of the distance, it hands the lead over to our Talladega winner from 2 weeks ago, Nick Ottinger.
So Nick Ottinger will lead a couple laps here before he likely cycles down on pit road early. I'd expect that 47 car not to stay out too long here with everyone around him coming down onto pit road as he cycles down to the bottom of the racetrack and start slowing up. So Nick Ottinger going to come down on towards pit road. Jarl Tien will be the next car to stay out and inherit the race lead, and then it'll be Ray Alfala, currently second in line. As let's actually take a peek as these guys start cycling out. How much ground has Zach Novak maybe gained or lost over everyone who came down that last cycle through? I'm not sure just yet, but I think it's still in favor of the 6 car at the moment as far as positions run.
And taking a look back here, we saw Ryan Lowe.
Oh no, Garrett Lowe jumped to 6.
There you go. He's getting it done. There's some drivers on some different strategies. You see Garrett Lowe on your screen. I was going to mention Ryan Lowe right now in position number 5 on that long strategy as Casey Kerwin in front of him decides to peel on to pit road. Jarl Tien also on pit road as is Ray Alfala going to hand the lead over to Brad Davies and put Ryan Lowe in position number 2, 2 seconds behind Brad Davies. So the pit strategy starting to play out here a little bit. Ryan Lowe looks pretty good right now, but as you mentioned, that it's going to cycle through here as well and maybe play into the hand of a guy like Garrett Lowe as this run continues to go on.
And I'm not exactly sure what happened because looking at the pit stop times, there was only a 10th in it between the 28 and the 6. So how they're able to swap positions like that and how Garrett Lowe able to make up that much time, it would have had to come from either the entrance onto pit road or the exit of it. But regardless, amazing pit stop sequence from the 28 of Garrett Lowe puts him in position to potentially come away with a race win as Zach Novak has chased him down, is now all over that rear bumper of Garrett Lowe as they work through 3 and 4.
You said potentially as he goes to the inside, got that great run off at turn 2 as these two battle for what would be the leader off the pit cycle, and it's going to go to the 6 of Zach Novak, currently on the racetrack, the battle for position number 9, but that could very well be a pass for the win if the pit cycle goes through and they're able to make up the time that they need on Ryan Lowe and some of those drivers that are playing the long game right now, playing the big picture and trying to make it the rest of the way on this race as Garrett Lowe will fall back in behind the 6 and the 83 of Adam Benefiel, who goes to the inside of Zach Novak. That is not a battle for position at this point.
And we haven't really talked about him talking about this fight, Tim, but the other driver, of course, to think about with this group is that 17 car of Michael Guest, who he's had seemingly a horrific pit stop sequence. He finds himself not only 5 seconds behind Garrett Lowe, but of course behind Zach Novak, who just picked that position up as well. And remember, Guest and Novak on similar pit strategies, so something going wrong for Michael Guest through the pit stop sequence here, and he's lost a ton of ground.
And just behind them on the scoring monitor would be the 30 of Blake Reynolds and the 47 of Nick Ottinger, who just got their lap back from Ryan Lowe. And look at Ottinger trying to set it up on the outside. Oh boy, that was close going down into corner number 1 between Reynolds and that 47 of Ottinger, but they ride behind Michael Guest. They get a great run off of corner number 2, and they're going to be at the back porch of that Sunny D Ford as they go down into corner number 3.
This will be a 3-wide fight for what will effectively be 3rd, 4th, and 5th on the racetrack. Still a handful of cars we need to see come down pit road. Lowe, Cattell, and Nelson are the 3 that have yet to hit pit road. 47 to the outside of the 17, in towards 1 and 2. Can that Sunny D4 keep it hooked up? Remember, the 47 had the momentum towards the end of that run, and Chris is going to get, or excuse me, Ottinger going to get forced up the racetrack. And he's just going to be able to hold on to that outside line. So the 17 car guest not going to be able to scare the driver of the second place in most wins in this championship. Not going to scare him easily as we're approaching 30 laps to go. And remember, Ryan Lowe in that 7 car, he's really the one we're looking at to maybe try and stretch this on fuel.
Ryan Lowe and Brandon Cattell up in front, along with Ben Nelson, who have stayed out on the racetrack and trying to throw the Hail Mary here, trying to throw the long pass and make sure that they get at least a good finish out of this one compared to where they were. Keep in mind, Ryan Lowe started 39th on the field here this evening and trying to make up that gain and go from the back to the front of the field, and right now doing just that in car number 7. And he's got a 20-second lead on Brandon Cattell, and about 2 seconds or so between Brandon Cattell and our 3rd place runner Ben Nelson, and not too far behind would be Zach Novak, and Novak is on the charge as well. So this is going to play out fairly close to the end of this one. We're going to complete lap 103 this time by.
So about 31 laps to go and left in this thing as they work their way across start finish. Of course, with Cattell and Nelson, it's the situation they're in. They're really just off the nose of Zach Novak. Novak actually going to get around Ben Nelson this time, and the 80 of Brandon Hayes Cattell is only about 20-30 car lengths out and ahead of the 6. So that's why we really don't think that either of those cars has the pace to be able to even maintain this gap. Nonetheless, have any hopes of staying in front of that 6 car of Zach Novak. It's just Ryan Lowe, 22 seconds up the road, actually saying that the 7's on pit road, so he can't stretch the gas.
Yeah, Lowe down on pit road, and I would have thought that he would have went as far as he could to try to make this thing happen and get that victory, but he aborts that strategy down on pit road, and now it's Brandon Cattell out in front of the only driver in front of Zach Novak, and Ben Nelson still out on the racetrack, still on that long strategy, but now falling a little bit further behind, sitting in position number 3 the last time by the scoring loop. So Brandon Cattell trying to do everything that he can and trying to make those horses run in the mane and tail number 80. He'll come across the stripe this time, though, and he'll see if he looks in the rearview mirror. There's Zach Novak in the rearview mirror. So Cattell trying to hold on, but it might be too early, too late, per se, as he's got a lot of laps to go and not a whole lot of time between himself and Zach Novak.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be much holding on to this, as the 62 is now dealing with the 6 car, or I should say the other way, the 6 is dealing with the 62. But yeah, I really don't understand that call by the 7 of Ryan Lowe, Tim. Even if you can't make it on fuel, you set yourself up probably, I assume that car probably had enough gas in it to be able to keep going. You run that strategy. I don't understand why you just don't run that thing absolutely dry. Even if you can only make it into lap 133, I'd rather see you stay out there and really roll the dice at catching a yellow rather than coming down early and say, oh, we need a handful of laps on the new tires. He just killed any hope he had of probably finishing inside of, strongly inside of the top 20. You went from an opportunity, I think, maybe pull off a top 5, maybe even a win. Now he's going to probably finish 25th at best.
And Zach Novak will officially go back to the lead as Brandon Cattell will fall to second, scrape the wall there down into corner number 1. So Zach Novak is now back on top of the scoring pylon. And the only thing that I can think of to close your point, Randy, is if they didn't get the car full of fuel or something, because he went so long on that run that at that point you would almost have to commit to that strategy. But the only thing that I can think of is maybe they didn't get the car full of fuel or something along those lines that would prevent him from going that far and trying to make it happen, because he had a 20-second lead on the rest of the field, including those that had come down pit road, including Zach Novak. And now Novak leads this train around, going to put a lap on the 63 of Timmy Hill. Brandon Cattell currently in second, and I say currently because Garrett Lowe is going to hop to the inside, and they'll battle for position number 2, with the Renegades number 28 will try to make this an easy battle, try to slide up at a corner number 4. He'll take that position away, and Brandon Cattell will fall to third.
Yeah, so Brandon Cattell going to lose a couple spots, and now both the kind of the duo of cars that are out here on this alternate strategy of Cattell and Nelson, they're going to have Ottinger, Reynolds, and Guest to deal with. Then they're not going to have long until they deal with it. Of course, really the metric, Tim, for that 7 car that we're talking about is the 80 and 33 car, because those 3 cars were all the same strategy. So, maybe some disaster happened. They didn't get enough fuel in that car for the 7 of Ryan Lowe, because, obviously you could have come down pit road at the same point as these guys, more or less. And look at the damages that these guys have on them, both Ben Nelson and Brandon Cattell. That's going to be negatively affecting their fuel economy rather than the inverse. He should have had more than enough fuel to keep running. So, yeah, I really don't understand the call by the 7 car. You might finish worse, of course, if you don't get that caution than you would if you come down pit road, but you eliminate all hopes of finishing better.
So up in front continues to be Zach Novak and Garrett Lowe. 1.7 seconds the last time behind the stripe. You should see the 33 of Ben Nelson on your screen, currently scored in position number 4 on the racetrack, but might be a little bit further behind on this lap as he's got a couple of lead lap cars to the inside of him as they make that move. But Garrett Lowe is 1.8 seconds. He's got a few laps left in this race to make it happen. He's working on lap 112 of this 134 lap race. Can Garrett Lowe dig deep and have something for Zach Novak before the end of this?
No. The problem is, this is starting to sound stern, but the problem with Garrett right now in that Renegade 28 is, of course, he made that early pit stop, sort of as he came down a few extra laps early in comparison to the 6 to try to make something of this, try to get out on the newer tires. And, of course, that has the inverse effect of once the 6 is out there on new tires, now suddenly the 6 car has the pace advantage. So Garrett Lowe has a 1.8 second disadvantage he needs to make up, and he needs to try to reel in a car on newer tires. I don't think it's really going to happen unless we see that 6 get involved in some incident with traffic or, of course, that's assuming the race goes green here. If it stays green, I don't see that 28 chasing down the 6 in any sort of universe whatsoever. But of course, if we get a late race caution, it's potentially anyone's game, especially with 20 to go, Tim, because this is crazy. Coming down pit road, do you take 2 tires, do you take 4 tires?
It would be crazy if we do see the yellow flag, but with 20 laps to go, you'd have to believe this is Zach Novak's race, and this is a race that he wanted last year, led the most laps in this race 1 year ago, and just couldn't close the deal. And the guy that was able to close the deal a couple of years ago was Nick Ottinger. Won this race back in 2013, but now he has his hands completely full with Blake Reynolds. Reynolds trying to make it happen for what would be position number 3 and try to lock up his 3rd consecutive top 10. But, oh, look at that. There is the 17 of Michael Guest trying to claw his way back up through. They dispatch Brandon Cattell back outside the top 5. Cattell will be running in position number 6. This is probably going to be the most entertaining battle coming down to the end of this one, Randy, is that 30 of Blake Reynolds, the 17 of Michael Guest. We've seen the long run speed out of both of these race cars. Nick Ottinger is no slouch either. This should be a fine little battle down to the end.
Yeah, definitely. This 3-car scrap for 3rd, 4th, and 5th is going to be the one to watch unless we get a caution somewhere. They work off turn 4. Blake Reynolds has the run off turn 2, and he's going to have the run on the 47 Ottinger. Won't be close enough to make the move, but he's reeled in about a car length down that back straightaway through 3 and 4 now this time as I learn both ends of the racetrack. The 30 car, look at the way he closes on the back of that 47 car. Ottinger, a little bit of a better run off the corner, but the 30 definitely quicker on the entry and through the middle.
And actually gained a little bit of time on the leader that last time by, but your leader was putting a lap on Logan Kress in the 31. So as these guys continue to battle for position number 3, that 30 of Blake Reynolds not able to make the move that time on Nick Ottinger. Ottinger gets that run down the back straightaway and will try to maintain that position. Reynolds puts it down low and tries to get everything that he can. Slides up at a corner number 4 to get that momentum off the corner, but can't seem to make that move right there, so he'll stick back to position number 4. And right behind them, of course, Michael Guest is also a part of this battle. Brandon Cattell still has yet to come down pit road. Jarl T and Nick Shelton, Chris Shearburn, and Ray Alfala scored as your top 10 as we work within 20 laps to go in this one.
And looking at the lap times here, maybe a little bit of lap traffic for the 28 of Garrett Lowe, but Ottinger and Reynolds have been quicker by a couple tenths than both the pair of Novak and Garrett Lowe. I don't think there's enough time to get to Novak, what with him being 2 seconds out ahead of Garrett Lowe, but I think for the 47, the 30, and the 17, if they recognize the fact that they're reeling in that second place car, they may have just enough time to sort of get there by the end of the run and maybe make something of this for the last couple laps.
This run to the checkered is brought to you by Herculiner Truck Bedliners. The tough come easy, and if you want to get up here and win this race here at Kansas, you're going to have to be tough, and especially in this battle for top 5 positions from 3rd on back. Ottinger up here wheeling that race car, currently has that 3rd place position, but you see Michael Guest trying to take it away from Blake Reynolds. The battle for position number 4 is Nick Ottinger. Goes high in corner number 2, gets a little sideways there off of that second corner, but doesn't lose a whole lot of ground. But the 30 car gets a little bit bigger in that rear view picture as you see the 30 sink down low to the inside.
Still liking that inside line. 47 of Ottinger not letting that line up along the wall go away whatsoever. So Ottinger still trying to hold on and make something of this fight. They reel in, I think, a little bit of time on that 28 car once again here as we approach that 10 lap to go mark. 30 of Blake Reynolds once again all the way down to the bottom. The 17 of Michael Guest is going to follow him. Can't make anything of it off turn 2. And the 17 of Michael Guest doing nothing but losing ground here.
He's going to have to dig deep here in the last couple laps here to get up and battle with these two. There you see the 99 of Logan Clampett on your screen. That's Malik Ray and the Richmond Raceway, the Sunoco Race Fuel number 90 to the inside. This is a nice little battle for position number 11, just outside the top 10 and not too far ahead by about 2 or 3 car lengths or so is Brian Schoenberg. So this could potentially be a battle for a top 10 position. There's the Williams Esports number 55 just off your screen there. So potentially a battle for a top 10 position. You'd rather say you have a top 10 at Kansas rather than finishing in position number 11 on back. So Brian Schoenberg trying to wheel that thing and keep it in the top 10, but he's going to have a couple of hungry drivers behind him in these late laps.
Yeah, I mean, that 55 car looks clean compared to the 99 and the 90. Malik Ray, the right front, looks a little bit killed, and Logan Clampett, the rear end is a little bit bashed in, but they both have pace. So that 55 is Schoenberg. Going to have to really work it here to try to hold them off because both of those drivers, they're looking quick, and they are 2 of them probably most aggressive in the field.
Continuing to work here as Garrett Lowe is come up on some lap traffic. The 62 of Keegan Leahy, I believe that is, as he tries to make it by. Keeping an eye on that interval there between your top 2. It was over 2 seconds, and it looks like Garrett Lowe just knocked off another 0.2 of a second that time on Zach Novak, and Novak is in clean racetrack right now, and Novak looked a little bit loose off of corner number 2 that last time by. So could Zach Novak have used the good on his tires, and could Garrett Lowe be mounting a charge here, lady? It's going to be a late charge. It's going to be 10 laps to go this time by, but Garrett Lowe is making some inroads.
Well, I've already said that Garrett Lowe can't do it, so I hope for my sake that Novak can maintain this gap as they sort of equalize the pace that last trip around. Lowe is quicker, but only by about 100, so nothing really going there for the 28. 1.7 currently the gap as they work off turn 2 and down the back straightaway. 10 to go next time around the line, so things are really heating up. If Zach lost his tires just a little bit, this could get crazy coming down to the end.
Lowe needed the 0.2 a lap that he did about 2 laps before that. We'll see this time by if he can continue to close that gap a little bit. It was 1.76 to 1.70, so that 0.2 that he needed per lap, he's not getting in the last 2 laps. So he might be able to get into the draft of your leader, Zach Novak, if he continues to do what he's doing. But oh, by the way, as you saw in that speed shot off of corner number 2, got a little bit of lap traffic in between them as well. So Zach Novak still trying to manage what he has. He was mighty quick on the short run, and now he continues to maintain the lead that he had built, but it's down underneath 1.7 seconds now, so the gap is closing. The question is, can Zach Novak hold on, and how about this battle for third? These guys are letting it all hang out. The 30 of Blake Reynolds to the inside, Nick Ottinger to the outside, and Michael Guest wants to be a part of this as well.
Yeah, Michael's done well after the last couple times we've checked in. We've seen that 17 car be dropped off the back of this grouping. He's since reeled in that 30 car and is now very much a part of this and turned it into a 3-car scrap. Now, cross start finish, they will come. The 30 gets to the inside of Nick Ottinger, so Ottinger's going to let Blake Reynolds get that low line. I think it should be Blake's best opportunity to slide up in front of the 47. It's exactly what he's going to do. Ottinger wants to try to cut it back down to the bottom. The 17 of Michael Guest is there. He's going to try to work the draft, and he will stay clear of the 17 of Michael Guest.
He's got to get that run. He had that run off the corner, but as you mentioned, Michael Guest was to the inside, Blake Reynolds right in front of him. Nick Ottinger couldn't really do anything with that position, but now the 17 of Michael Guest will try to wrestle that position away from Nick Ottinger. That's the battle for position number 4, and trying to get up here to third, trying to get to the inside of the 30 of Reynolds. Can't do it that time, but they'll come up off of this corner, and we'll see who gets the run. Look at Ottinger, the run that he gets on the 17 of Guest. Guest was up on the outside line. Ottinger goes to the inside with that run, and they'll be side by side down into 3.
Can Nick slide it up in front of the 17 here off of turn 4? He's going to try to, but can't quite do it. 17 of Michael Guest able to shut that door off. That's going to allow the 30 car of Blake Reynolds to open up a couple of car links here. And that actually might put him in a fantastic situation here to hold on to this gap here inside of the waning moments of this race. We remain watching the fight behind, by the way, with the 55 of Schoenberg. He has lost that fight for that 10th position. Malik Ray currently has his way in that 10th spot. The 99 of Logan Clampett now works on the double nickel of Schoenberg as a 47 and the 17. They're going to be the 2 cars scrapping here toward the tail end of your top 5.
Battles all over this racetrack. Nick Shelton currently in 6th, trying to hold off Jarl Tien. We mentioned Chris Sherburne, Ray Alfala, about a second or so in between them. So it looks like coming down to the end of this one, Zach Novak, Garrett Lowe up in front by about 1.3 seconds in between them. Garrett Lowe has been able to make some inroads, Randy, but it might be too little too late here. He might need about 10 more laps on this 134 lap race, and obviously he's not going to get it. We're going to come by this time and complete 131 on the racetrack. Zach Novak trying to complete what he started last year at Kansas.
Yeah, he's hoping to make something happen here. Gap down to 1.2 seconds, and unless Zach Novak has some sort of big drama right here, right now, and has to save a ton of fuel, I don't think it's going to happen here for Garrett Lowe. He's reeling in an impressive amount of time, but I don't think it's going to be enough as the 30's been able to run away from the 17 and the 47.
Going to put that lap on Logan Kress and Michael Guest right behind them. Going to try to do the same, and there's a little bit of a gap between Michael Guest and Nick Ottinger. Now Ottinger's fallen off the pace of this battle, and he's comfortable back to Nick Shelton. He's got about 3 seconds or so back to the next driver in line, and that's 79 of Shelton. But Zach Novak down the back straightaway. He's got about a lap and a half or so here, Randy, and trying to close this off. And it looks like the top 5 mighty comfortable in between each other. Garrett Lowe within a second, but I don't think he's going to get there.
I don't think so either. A little bit of lap traffic out in front as they're going to come off turn 4 and see the white here. So Zach Novak, one more trip around the racetrack, and he's got himself another win in 2019.
Down into corners number 1 and 2 for the final time as Zach Novak started off this season for Roush Fenway Racing with a win at Daytona and looking for a second victory on this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series season. He's got about a second on Garrett Lowe. Lowe has been trying to make some inroads on these last couple laps. He dives it down to the inside, but he's not going to be able to get there. Coming out of corner number 4, it's going to be Zach Novak winning at the Kansas Speedway. Garrett Lowe going to come home in position number 2. Blake Reynolds was reeling in your top 2 at the end, could not get there. He'll have to settle for 3rd. Michael Guest, great run for 4th. And Nick Ottinger, your top 5. And Randy, at the start of the race, we had a couple of caution flags, slowed this thing down, but man, these guys ramped up the pace. Green flag racing at the end of it. What a show.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We really saw some things really close up. We never got the big 3 wide, 4 wide packs like I think we were expecting, Tim. The race just didn't really fall that way, but the 6 of Zach Novak, I think he's going to be happy that he's by the midway point of the season, he's starting to get back to the sort of form we saw him for the first couple rounds. So that 6 of Zach Novak and that Roush Fenway Racing car are going to be more than happy. And of course, the points are going to be interesting as well after this. Of course, Ryan Luza, he's going to come home 36 today. So the likes of Keegan Leahy, even though he has a bad race, he's going to make up some big improvement in the points. And a couple other your cars just outside of the top 5 in the points coming into this, Novak and Reynolds, they're going to have an amazing night.
You've got some drivers with a subpar evening. It's going to shake up that point standings, but how about Zach Novak? Last year led the most laps in this race at Kansas, led 72 laps here last year, but failed to close the deal, had to settle for position number 4. Comes out this evening, dominating performance at the end of this race, and a short run car, a lot of short run speed, but not able to close in on that long run. Garrett Lowe, Blake Reynolds were closing up that gap. As you see your results on your screen, Zach Novak, Garrett Lowe, Blake Reynolds, your top 3. Michael Guest, Nick Ottinger, your top 5. Nick Shelton in position number 6. Jarl Tien, Chris Sherburne, Ray Alfala, and how about Malik Ray? Great top 10 run for the number 90 driver from Richmond Raceway Esports.
Ryan Schoenberg puts in a pretty decent run as well to get himself an 11th with Logan Clampett in 12th. His teammate actually just behind of Ashton Crowder in that 13th spot. Jake Nichols in 14th with Brad Davies in 15th. Christian Challoner, we talked about him being up near the front early. He cycles down to position number 16 at the end of the night. Bobby Zielinski, after getting in trouble early, cycles back up to 17th with Dylan Duvall in 18th, Phil Diaz 19th, and Michael Gariglia rounds out your top 20.
Casey Kerwin going to come home in position number 21. Chris Overland in 22nd. Cody Bias for Mode Motorsports and Kyle Long in 23rd. Michael Conti in 24th. And Ryan Lowe complete your top 25. Casey Tucker in 26th. Matt Boos at 27th. Adam Benefiel 28th. Keegan Leahy. We talked about the opportunity to try to close in on that points gap. Is going to fall up in 29th position. And Logan Kress in position number 30.
31st, we'll have Timmy Hill with Kane Cook in 32nd. 33rd, Brandon Hayes-Cattell with Ben Nelson in 34th. Jimmy Mullis in 35th. And championship points leader, first really horrible race for him of the season. He comes home 36th with Nathan Lyon, Taylor Hurst, Corey Vincent, and Eric J. Smith rounding out the 40-car field tonight.
Those are your top to bottom results here from the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze Series from Kansas. We're going to step away for just a few moments' time. We'll bring you back to the post-race show where we'll chat with our top 5 from the Kansas Speedway.
It's decision time, NASCAR fans. Who gets you the points? Who gets you the wins? Who gets you the bragging rights? Who gets you the championship? Sign up and play today at NASCAR.com/fantasy.
Welcome back to the Kansas Speedway at round number 7 of the eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Just wrapped up here from the Kansas Speedway, and a great race that we saw lots of green flag racing action at the end, long run to the end with Zach Novak coming home with the victory. You see your top 10 on the screen, and we came into this evening, Randy, not sure really what to expect on this one. New rules package. We were told to maybe expect a Fontana, maybe expect a drafting package, some 3 and 4 wide racing, and we saw that definitely on the restarts early in this one. But at the end, Zach Novak able to stretch it out a little bit. Garrett Lowe, Blake Reynolds, Michael Guest, they closed on the long run. They just weren't able to close the deal. They needed about 6 more laps or so.
Yeah, I think you're right. Needed a handful more laps, and I think they would have been able to pick that up and get there, especially Garrett Lowe. I am curious, though, maybe how patient Zach was just being on the tire stem. We saw him drop a little bit of pace. Was Zach maybe not just pushing super hard there at the end, or was that a legitimate pace difference? I guess we'll never know.
I guess we'll never know, or maybe we'll have to play it out next year here at the Kansas Speedway. Still waiting for Zach Novak to pull it into victory lane, but Randy, I believe you've caught up with our second place finisher here this evening, Garrett Lowe.
Yeah, I'm stood by with Garrett Lowe. And Garrett, man, this looked like it may have been your night to be able to pull something off. I think you were, if I recall correctly, you were Tim's sort of pick to win the race, and you're just 0.8 of a second short. Talk me through your night in that number 28 Renegades car.
Yeah, started off the night. We started out pretty much towards the back of the field like we normally have this season. It's something we got to work on, but worked our way up to the pretty much mid-pack and got caught up in one of those wrecks there on the restart and knocked the right front off the car, so we were without a right front the rest of the race, which kind of put us at an aero disadvantage. So that was pretty much the highlight of our night. It was the scariest part, but we made it through and we were able to come back and finish second.
And we saw a bunch of cars go from the back of the field and come to the front. I mean, every driver in our top 5 started outside of the top 20, 2 started outside of the top 30. What was it about Kansas here tonight that made it so raceable so possible for guys to come from the back and drive their way right to the front, really within the first half of that race?
Well, I think with those first few cautions, you had the guys on different tire strategies, and so that really opened the door up for guys to pass, and that's how I was able to get up there at the front. I was just happened to be off sequence with everybody going to fix that damage from that wreck. So I was able to just pretty much drive past everybody who was on the older tires, but once the tires evened out, you couldn't pass anybody. So that was pretty much, I think, the only downside, but just once it got stabled out, nobody could really do anything.
And now going in towards the next race of the championship, we're going to be going to the longest race of the season, 200 laps around the Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's going to be a big, long run for you guys. We still have basically another hour of racing to go if we were going into 2 weeks from now. What's your mindset going into there from all the rest of the races we've had this far this season?
Well, this race was pretty short, I think, compared to most of the other races this season. But Charlotte, yeah, definitely going to be a much longer race. We're definitely going to have to, kind of have a mindset of this is a longer race, and we don't really have to, go now. We can kind of take our time and moving through the field.
Well, thanks for joining us, Garrett, and congratulations on another good run here. I think you're finally able to get a top 5 from one of these races instead of being in a position and just getting really the short straw and having to settle shortly just outside, or even worse, spinning off a 2 and going way down the order. But congratulations on a strong second-place run. Who gets it done for that 28 Renegades car?
Renegades, HyperX, everybody at 5 Star Racing, and the team, Brian, Jared, Michael Trent, Derek, Dylan, Evan, Cody, Ryan Luza as well. We got so many guys over here that work really hard week in and week out to just put so much work into these cars to help us go that fast. So huge shout out to all of them, Justin Bolton as well, and Nick Doucette for the awesome paint scheme.
There he is. Garrett Lowe finishes second, and I believe Mr. Tim Terry has finally been able to find Zach Novak. The party and celebration stops for a moment as Tim has our race winner, Zach.
Zach Novak's second win on this season. A short run speed in this race car and a long run to the end of the race. How were you able to manage that car up in front to take home this victory?
Well, clean air was huge. I felt really comfortable in clean air through practice, and we were able to work our way to the front really quick with those cautions and everybody being on old tires in front of us. And we worked our way to the front, and man, it was just a rocket ship. Big thanks to the guys at Lockdown Racing. Jimmy and Taylor worked really hard on this thing, and we dialed it in pretty quick into the testing period. We got it dialed into how we wanted it within the first session or two, and man, it was just a rocket ship through the whole run.
Practice races throughout the week leading up to this race have been spectacular. We had a couple of cautions at the start. Did that change the strategy at all, thinking we might see a couple of cautions here? Or did you guys anticipate that long green flag run playing out?
Well, when I got to the lead, I definitely hoped for it. I kind of figured we'd have a few more cautions there. I was really surprised we went green, but those cautions definitely changed up the strategy a little bit, not too much. But overall, I mean, that race went almost as smooth as it could have been besides those few hiccups at the beginning.
We are halfway through the regular season. You currently move up to position number 3 in the standings after everything this evening. How big of a shot of the arm is this to try to get yourself into that playoffs and set yourself up for that playoff run?
Oh, this is huge, Tim. We ran well here last year and didn't win. We led the most laps as well. And that was slightly disappointing considering we needed some wins to try to make the chase. And now we're in a good spot, and then we come in and dominate like this. It's awesome. This is such a huge momentum boost for everybody at Lockdown Racing and Roush Fenway Racing. And I'm just so happy we could show up and do this well.
You mentioned the team, you mentioned Roush Fenway Racing. Who else makes it happen for you to get to the racetrack?
Yeah, I just want to thank all their partners, Performance Plus Motor Oil, especially for being on the car for the race tonight, Wyndham Rewards, Safety Clean, Acorns, and just everybody that helps out, as well as Oscar Meyer. And big thanks to Roush for picking me up this year, and I'm so glad that we could run this well for them. It's an honor. And again, I just want to give a big shout out to Jimmy and Taylor for their really hard work. We were pretty happy with the car all week, like I said. So also just huge thanks to Logan Sheets and Brandon Coppinger. They did awesome. We executed this race perfectly from start to finish. So besides the fact that we didn't qualify too well, this race went pretty perfect.
And great to see this number 6 back in victory lane. Zach Novak's second win of the season, and coming home in fine style here at Kansas Speedway. And we'll chat with his teammate in just a little bit, Michael Guest from Roush Fenway Racing, finishing in the top 5. But I believe Randy has caught up with our third place finisher here this evening. Another top 10 run and a solid run for Blake Reynolds.
Yeah, Blake Reynolds from Team Dillon Esports. We talked to your team owner at the top of the show, Blake, and unfortunately your teammate got in a little bit of drama early on, wasn't able to put in a great night of racing. You, though, able to come from 35th all the way up to 3rd. I'm sure Austin Dillon is going to be more than happy with that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. In the warm-up there, I kind of sat on pit road for about a minute or two and just listened to what he had to say before the race. And that was really cool that he mentioned that I briefly met him just after the race. It was really quick. He had to go hunting with Realtree after that. But yeah, that car, man, it was amazing. And we've been doing really good at Dead Zone. The whole group of guys, Dustin Lingert and Houston Hammer, have been like making these rocket ships. And Michael Guest, man, what a drive for him. He was way back at the points and he needed this today. But yeah, we figured out the bottom, and there at the end battling Nick, that was a lot of fun.
Well, I mean, talking about the sort of speed you guys have had, because you have been very, very consistent and very impressive here through the midpoint of the championship. What's going on in qualifying, man? You qualify 35th, and then you have a rocket ship like that. Your qualifying program, I think, needs a little work.
Yeah, we were just talking about that, like in the middle of the race. Yeah, it doesn't seem to matter, though. Every race, we've been able to come through the field, and honestly, you know, it's a little bit of a practice, it almost feels like, just coming through the field and, you know, passing cars, learning how to play it, and then, you know, it really helps at the end with the racecraft up front.
And the next couple races, of course, going to be interesting. I've already asked Garrett about the next race coming up at Charlotte, the 200 lapper. I want your input, though, on a month from now in 2 races. We go to Sonoma, first road course on the season. Your guys' package has gotten really good on the ovals. Do you have anything for the road courses?
I'd consider myself better on the road courses. I'd say I'm at least top 20. Everyone's really good, and I'd say it's pretty equal. There's a couple of guys that are really like heavy hitters at the top, but I'd say I'm a top 15 driver. And you know, Sonoma, it's, you know, 75% the same track, but you know, we got is it called the carousel? I can't remember the name of that corner, but yeah, just that one corner makes it a completely different track. So I haven't tried it yet, but we'll just have to, you know, try it out.
Well, as a seasoned sports car and American open wheel driver here on the iRacing service, I will tell you right now that it's a lot more than just one corner. There's a lot of elevation change in that inner sort of loop of the racetrack. That's going to be a lot of fun to watch you guys try and deal with for the first time in series history. But thanks for joining us, Blake, and congratulations on another podium finish here tonight. Before we let you go, who gets it done for that number 30 Team Dillon Esports machine?
Well, I won at Team Dillon Esports, you know, Austin Craven, Austin Dillon. Our partners Beneath Apparel, we got Elevate on the car, Digital Ally, StockX, John Dragonetti for the amazing paint scheme, and like I said earlier, the setups are done by Dustin Lingert, Houston Hammer, absolute rocket ships.
Well, there he was, third place winner tonight of Blake Reynolds, and Mr. Tim Terry, he's able to lock himself up a couple of Roush cars to talk to. He's already talked to the first one. Now he gets to talk to the 17 Sunny D car of Michael Guest.
It's been a while since I've got to do this. Michael Guest coming home in position number 4. Man, that looked like a fun battle between yourself, Blake Reynolds, and Nick Ottinger. How fun was it from the race car battling late, trying to get up and grab a top 3 spot?
Oh yeah, of course, and feels great to be back in here finally. Starting 32nd, we didn't expect to go through the field that fast, but the first run I hooked up with Blake Reynolds and we just went from the very back to the very front, and all the way to the end we were just together fighting for the podium spot, and it was a great battle. We were trying as hard as we could to catch Novak and Garrett, but once we realized with about 10 to go that we couldn't, we started battling.
A top 5 run here. We mentioned earlier that you've had speed all season long. It just seems like you haven't been able to get the finishes and get the breaks that you need. How much of a relief is it to get up here and get in the top 5 and have a good run here, Kansas?
Oh, definitely. This is one of my favorite tracks on the circuit that we go to, because last year I was doing the same thing. I would just run the middle like that, and it was just as fast last year, but I sped a few times and got myself in the back. So this time around I wanted to make sure I finished really well and make sure I showed how good I am, I guess, at this track. And yeah, that was definitely fun. Going into it, I didn't think we were going to be able to run the bottom like that because it's the daytime this time around. So the fact that we were able to move around and, you know, run 3 wide a lot of the race was really fun.
We are halfway through the regular season. We have 7 races to go before we close off that window and begin the playoffs. You're currently 18th in points. Got about 50 or 100 points or so between yourself and Ryan Luza at the front of the field. What is the mindset going into these next 7 races? Can we get up there and get a playoff spot before this thing is all said and done?
That's definitely what the goal is. I've been running pretty well all season. I've gotten either a top 10 or I've been crashed out and I finished 35th or worse. So it's I'm gonna try to limit those the rest of the season and try to click off some top 10s.
Charlotte, 2 weeks time, the home of stock car racing. What do you expect out of that race?
I think it's going to be a little bit similar to this. Aero push is going to be a big thing, and it's going to be about trying to get the track position early. I think it's going to be a little bit harder to go from the back to the front compared to this race.
Sonny D looks sharp on that race car. Who else makes it happen to get you to the virtual racetrack every week?
Oh yeah, of course. This car looks awesome from Sonny D, Fastenal, Fifth Third Bank, all the partners, and Roush for having me on this season. It's been really fun so far. Also, Dustin Langard in Houston, they just built a rocket ship for this week. That was awesome.
Michael Guest coming home with a top 5 finish. Great to see Mikey up here, and the Roush Fenway cars 1st and 4th here this evening. So a great showing for the team. I believe Randy has caught up with our winner from 2 weeks ago and had a solid run here this evening, the 47 of Nick Ottinger.
Yeah, Nick Ottinger able to get himself a pair of top 5s in quick succession here in the championship. Nick, it was an absolutely great race from you, from 26th up to 5th. You guys at JTG Daughter Racing seem to have really hit on something, because that car has picked up a bit of pace from what we saw in the first couple races of the year.
Yeah, our Kroger machines, it's getting better, like you said. I like to think we actually could have tried to contend with Zach up there, but I mean, I think clean air tonight was just... It was extraordinary to have, to be honest. He got out there quick on that one restart where he got by the guys with older tires better than me, and I got stuck behind, I think, the 75, unfortunately, but that happens. He done a good job, and congrats to him. But I mean, we've leaps and bounds better than where we were last year in point 2, especially with having one less race in the top 10 in points. So I mean, we're up there. I mean, I can't really complain about this.
Next race out will be at Charlotte. Bit of a home race for yourself and your crew chief of Matt Holden. What kind of package do you guys think you can put for the longest race of the championship? Is it going to be a good one?
I hope it's the fastest one out there, to be honest. It's our first time actually racing on the bumpy Charlotte that they've been running on in Cup Series for a while. So I like bumpy tracks. I don't like when we wreck at bumpy tracks, but hopefully we don't do that. We've been on a good roll here, so Holden's usually good at setting these cars up for bumpy tracks, and I mean, he's been a really good crew chief for my whole MPAS career, so I mean, I don't think we will be anything short of a top 5. Would be a little bit disappointed, but I mean, our Kroger machine, like I said, we were good tonight, so hopefully we can learn some things for there.
Well, you guys have definitely hit on strong here towards the midpoint of the season, which is, I think, where everyone wants to try to be. Congratulations on another strong run tonight. Before we let you go, who gets it done for that 47 Kroger car?
Definitely got to thank JTG for drafting me again. We're getting a lot of good runs, good publicity for them, and I want to thank all the guys at Team Connie Alliance and Chassis for just extremely a good effort for just leading into this race. I know a lot of them had a little bad luck tonight, but we're only good from as good as our teammates are, and I mean, it's just indicative of how we've been running lately.
Thanks for joining us, Nick, once again, and good luck to you out of Charlotte.
Thank you, Randy. You guys have a good night.
There he was, 5th place finisher tonight, and winner from a couple weeks back to Nick Ottinger. Tim, shifts back yours.
And a great race that we saw here at Kansas. Once again, there's your results, so your top 10 on your screen. The point standings, as we mentioned, Randy, shaken up just a little bit. Still Ryan Luza, still Keegan Leahy at the top, but it's a lot closer from second on back. Zach Novak's closed into a point on Keegan Leahy. Still a comfortable margin up in front for Ryan Luza, but it could have been a lot worse than it was after the early laps here at Kansas.
Keegan Leahy's going to be kicking himself, I think, for that early pit stop, because with him being out at the head of the field early and to make that call to come down pit road and getting tangled in traffic, I mean, he could have been maybe just 5 or 10 points back, or maybe even have the championship lead coming out of here. So it's really a big what if, I think, for Keegan Leahy with that early strategy call. So Ryan loses is, of course, going to have a big sigh of relief there that he's able to come away from here with that 40-point gap. But still, things get a lot tighter for Ryan with the likes of now he has Zach Novak very much in the hunt as well, and Blake Reynolds not much further far back. So championship still very much in favor of Ryan as we head towards, of course, that playoff cutoff a little bit deeper into the season. But Ryan still very much the dominant car.
And with this, Kansas Speedway is going to fall in our rearview mirror. A great round 7 of this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series. Want to thank everybody that made it happen here this evening. Special thanks to Alex Horn, Anwern Designs, Simon Grossman for the broadcast CG, our director Hugo Louis, Justin Prince for our support in the background, Alex Horn on cameras, the broadcast graphics package by Andy Warner and Simon Grossman. Want to thank Austin Dillon for joining us off the top of the show. For Randy Cheneth, my name is Tim Terry. We want to congratulate Zach Novak and Roush Fenway Racing on their second win of this eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series, and of course you, the viewers, for tuning in and enjoying some great racing along with us on a Tuesday evening. We're back at it in 2 weeks' time from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And that's the next round. That race and every race of the 2019 eNASCAR PEAK Antifreeze iRacing Series can be found right here on RaceSpot TV and the iRacing Esports Network. That's going to do it for us here this evening from the Kansas Speedway. My name is Tim Terry. Until next time, keep the hammer down, and we'll see you at the track.